Okay, so welcome back. This will be the start of my first battle report. First of all, I'm just going to go through my army real quick and why I built it the way I did. So firstly, I have my Courtesan of Lust. I basically took it because I believe it's just a better option than the Bloodthirster or the Scourge of Wrath. I feel like having the Dance of Death with the lightning reflexes just brings more to the table than Hatred, hitting on 2+, and also having the possibility to get the rerolls from divination spells and also the Token of Lust is just overall better, I feel, than what the Bloodthirster can muster. Also, you get another wizard, so you can channel on 3+ and stuff like this. The Eternal Sword is pretty much the go-to. Actually, I was considering the Lash of Lust for a very long time, just because of how the playstyle of this list works. But in general, I was kind of happy that I went with the Eternal Sword, just so I had the option that if I was actually going to face off against some Chaos Lords or something of that general nastiness category, I could deal with them. And also the Blissful Binding goes for the same as the Eternal Sword for me. Just another tool so I could safely deal with the biggest and baddest guys in the class. Probably the biggest thing here is Blissful Binding opposed to Shackles of Reality for a 4-up save. I just find that the 4-up region is like a marginal upgrade, whilst I feel like there is in more games where you play your Courtesan offensively, it will matter more. But realistically, I think I can count the times that my Courtesan was in close combat on like one hand. So probably overall the Shackles could have been equally good as an option. But then again, it's 30 more points, so then I would have to change something. Next entry is my Harbinger of Change with 2 spells in Divination, Blazing Chariot and Veil of Shadows. It's basically to gain hard target and MR1 so I can join him to the other chariot so they can sit pretty safely in the back and usually trade up in points. 2-time Horror, Champion and Muso just for some light shooting to try and remove chaff, and also the champions have good spell selection, so I feel like always having the 2 missiles is really good, and usually you can get at least 1 more with 4 spells from Divination as well. Also the Breath Attack it's a nice option, even though I don't think I used it once in a tournament. And then 2 times the 10 Slaughterers with Champion. I was considering running a bigger block, but then again I felt like having 5 scoring as opposed to 4. I really like having several units of scoring, just so you can play the different secondary objectives better, because realistically the only place you get punished for having more than the minimum amount of scoring is flag. So basically if you play flag you are going to have a problem, but if you play anything else then usually having more scoring is just fine. And then another Blazing Chariot to shoot, 2 times 5 Mounted Siren. This unit is probably my favorite thing in the entire list, just because about how fast they are. They give the Demon Legion book an entire new option because they are able to flee. And additionally they are 2 attacks each with +1 to wound and AP1, and also the mount have poison, all with initiative 5, which I think is really strong. And then you have the Blood Chariot, just why not, it's a Blood Chariot. And then 5 Crusher Cav with Muso. It's probably, I don't feel like it's really grinding that well, just because the guys on top just have the single attack, but 3 attacks from the mount on strength 6 in the first round is really strong. And also it's the best scoring option in the Demon Legion book, just because of the movement 7, so probably a better option, just because they are more mobile than the Slaughterers, and the Horrors are just going to usually sit in the backfield for most of the games anyway. And then 5 Furies of Lust, just because I really it's basically my only dedicated chaff units, because usually I do other stuff than chaff with the mounted sirens. So having like a unit that's always just going to be sitting in the back line and waiting for opportunity to chaff. So if I have like an unexpected rush against me, then I will sacrifice this unit, and then I can use the next turn to draw the mounted sirens back in position so they can actually chaff and contain the potential rush. So yeah, that's my list. Next I'm going to show you pairing. This is our ratings for different armies by Nerdy by Nature. We didn't get the pairings in time from our dwarf player. He just made them all at the tournament, which I think is not ideal. It's always nice to have the pairings ready in advance, so we can actually sit down and talk about the pairings, just so they are more accurate. Of course, only me and Charles have been to like big time tournaments before, so naturally we expected the pairings to be a little bit off by some of our other players, and it's actually quite fine. We don't really care too much about it, yeah, generally it's just we use the -2 to +2 system to rate our pairings, just so we have like an indication to go by, like a gut feeling for each player. We don't really put too much emphasis on it for this tournament. Mostly me and Charles know what's a good and what's a bad matchup, and then we try to explain why and how to our team before each match. So you can see my ratings. I had a good matchup against Warriors of Chaos. I had about even against Empire, Beastmen and Vermin Swarm, and then I rated my Demonic Legion as -2. The matchups is always rated as like a generic match, not taking into account secondary objectives and player skill. At least that's how I do them. When I see the list, it's purely ranked of the list, not necessarily the player. But I knew I was probably going to be a stronger player than a guy I was playing against, at least for most of the times, with a few exceptions here and there. The TGH teams and also the other team I knew was really strong players in. But this team, I felt I had perhaps an upper hand against most of their players. So yeah, this was the rating. And then this was his list. I got paired against the Demonic Legion, which was a bad matchup for me on paper, but yeah, you can see his list is very similar to mine. However, he has 3 Cloven Fiends and the Demonic Engine and 1 less scoring. Also, he has Musician on his Slaughterers. His list is very similar to mine, but overall I felt like the upgrade from Courtesan to Scourge is probably better with the Courtesan in my mind, but generally a decent overall list, but I just like mine more because the ability to score. Sorry. Okay, so yeah, then we go on to the first the pregame phase. We rolled marching column, I believe we rolled. He started deploying. I believe I gave it to him and he chose the side, if I remember correctly. Not entirely sure actually, to be fair, who chose the side, but so for my spells I rolled I got Scrying and Stars Align for my Corazon of Lust, and then Unerring Strike and Fate's Judgment on my Cart Herald. The big deal was that he did not roll the Unerring Strike or the reroll to hit spell for his Herald in Chariot. So already there the odds was shifting a little bit in my favor. And then you can see the deployment. He has the Clovet Fiends and a unit of Blood Ladders on the right, and also the Skull Cannon, or yeah, the Blood Ladders or Slaughterers or whatever you like to call them now. And then a unit of Furies in the back line, sitting behind the house, and then also next to them are some Horrors. And then next to them he has the Bloodthirster or the Scourge. I found his deployment from this point to be really strange, because he obviously he deployed everything after we had like the first 6 drops need to be done alternating, but then he deployed everything and he went first. So this I felt was his Bloodthirster basically needs to find a good position, either fly behind the house or just risk taking the punishment in shooting. So I felt like this was a really weird deployment for his Thirster. And then on the other side of the fence he has his Demon Engine, and behind this his Chariot, and then 10 Horrors, and then Herald, and then on the other side you can see the last unit of Slaughterers, so taking the other flank. Yeah, it's just a general deployment. I would say it's okay, but I would reconsider the position of the Bloodthirster. For me, I placed the unit of Slaughterers on my right, and then you have the big guy with the pink and green stuff is my Herald. I was allowed to use this model instead of the actual cart from the TO. And then next to him is my Courtesan, and then my Blood Chariot peeking from behind the hill. Ideally I was attempting to try and hide from some of his shooting. And then next to them you can see a unit of Furies. And then both of the units of Horrors are sitting holding down the center. And next to them we have a unit of Crushers. And then we have 2 of my units of Fast Cav, and also my last unit of Slaughterers. We were playing the Breakthrough secondary objective, which I think overall was better for me because I had a little bit more scoring. And also I started my deployment by placing the 3 units you can see on the leftmost part of the picture. So just because I could really easily redeploy the Fast Cav, and also because the Slaughterers was like an expendable unit, so I wanted to see how the rest of his army went. I felt like this was one of the easiest units to sacrifice, both point-wise and also in strategical value. And then we can see his first turn. He starts to move up. I believe he shot his cannon and did 2 wounds to my cannon. And no, his cannon I believe misfired the first turn, and then his no, it was the second turn he misfired, I think. But the Demon Engine shot my my blood cannon and did 2 wounds. Also, just moving up in the center slightly, he positioned the Bloodthirster in a position where my cannon could see him, so I found this to be really strange to give me this free attempt at taking out his Bloodthirster. And then you can see his Herald has joined the unit of Horrors. And yeah, this also, in my turn, I shot his unit of his other changed chariot, so I usually take pictures at the end of each game turn. Yeah, so this is why there is happened some stuff that really doesn't appear in context, but I will be better at taking more pictures during the games, I think, because at some games I was even more lazy than this, so sorry about that. And then here you can see his Slaughterers has advanced some, the same for me. I have also my chariot taking the position on the hill to shoot his change chariot. Yeah, so I felt that was a decent position for me. Also, the first turn, my blood chariot shot his Scourge of Wrath. I missed. In the second turn, I hit and I made wound, and he made his ward save. Yeah, and here's a little bit blurry picture of my center. You can see Courtesan is still just sitting behind the hill, just because I don't want to take all this change shooting in my face. Repositioning the horrors in the center slightly, just so they can start participating in the trading fire in the center. Fury is just sitting in the backline still. The Slaughterers has started to reposition to get a better position by sidestepping, and then I have massively redeployed my chaff mounted sirens into the center because I want to start to move them onto my right side of the table, so they can participate and maybe try to assassinate either the units of horrors in the center if they do not take too much heavy fire. And then, yeah, this is just another picture. You can see my horrors. My slaughterers are keeping their position. I think maybe I either stay my ground or maybe move 2 inches backwards. I cannot quite remember. And then next picture is, let me see if I skipped one too many. No, next picture you can see this is I tried to cast Unerring Strike, big version, on his demonic engine. I did I think maybe 10 or 11 hits or something like this, and did 5 wounds to him overall after his saves. I think he saved maybe 1 or 2 on the armor save. I was really happy about this, because then it means if I remove this piece, the Herald and Slaughterers on his extreme right, and also the unit with the horrors here with Herald is really exposed. There you can see I've repositioned my my fast cav even more. The chariots has gotten into a position where I can attempt to put more pain in the, maybe also give some pressure in the center. And here you can see just starting to relocate my lines more to the right side of the board, just to try and extend the distance between his Scourge and myself. And then also my Courtesan has now peaked just outside the hill, so I can see his Slaughterers. So if he charges me, then he will be in the forest, and I can see past his lines, so I can make a support charge if he does not reform accordingly to deny me the charge. And yes, then you can see his Bloodthirster has now taken up a strong position where only my cannon has reached to him. And also his Slaughterers is pushing ahead. And then, yeah, this is basically a good position for him. The Bloodthirster, or as good as he can get it, I think. His cannon could not shoot, so he moved it into a better position to gain more line of sight. He also did some damage to my 1 unit of chaff, so I moved her in the back line of my army. And then here you can see this is a big change, because now I have charged the unit of mounted sirens into his unit of horrors. I also casted scrying on them. Additionally, you can see that his Herald is dead because I singled him out in close combat. This was a gamble I was willing to take, because I can get 500 point Herald to risk 180 point units of chaff that if they don't charge there, they will not really do anything the entire game. So it was a trade I was willing to take, even if it didn't go my way, and it paid off big time. And then you can also see my courtesan has now gotten herself in a more offensive position. He charged at me into the forest, and I traded about evenly. And then in my next turn, he already had made it so that I could clip with courtesan by the way he positioned his unit. So I didn't see any reason to reform because he did not either. So I charged in and got into a much better strategical position. Also a lot safer from a lot of his shooting. And then next picture, yeah, there you can see my slaughterers is now free. I reformed them to go a little bit smaller, so if needs be I could just fit on the other side of my courtesan, so they will just go for the go to score because we are playing breakthrough as mentioned. And then here you can see he's used 3 turns now to move his scourge into a good position, and in the 4th turn he charges. Also he declares his fiends in there, which I was okay with. It's not ideal, but I think maybe you could put them in a better position if you place them more centrally, because the scourge will be free regardless. In my last I will challenge because I have champion, and then he will probably break free in my turn because he will win combat big, and then I will crumble some. So I think it was maybe a little bit of an overkill to commit them, but it's fine. Yeah, just another picture of them, and then you can see he charges his demonic engine into the flank of my unit of mounted siren, which I was expected to lose them, but they did their job to kill the herald. And then this picture right here is one of the big moments of the game, because I really fucked up this one. Here you can see my unit of crushers in the corner has just started to move up to make a dash, because now I have 2 turns left to get into his deployment zone. And I have pre-measured, and I have just about the right movement to do so. I tried to move my courtesan into a position to block this charge. I moved also the horrors in a position to do the same, but my positioning of the chariot and the herald was so incredibly bad, because the case is that my right here, he will now turn his demon engine around, charge my horrors. They will maybe stick for a round, but then he will most definitely overrun and hit the chariots. Yeah, it's just so bad, so incredibly bad. This probably cost me a lot of points, so yeah, it's just not a good move. Ideally I would like to move them in maybe on top of the hill instead, to try and pile some more fire into the scourge if the possibility presents itself. And then you can see I moved up some more. Also in the meantime he shot my cannon dead. Yeah, they pop in combat. He cleaned them out. I stick for 1 more round than he anticipated, because he rolled really badly with his Cloed Fiends. And here you can see he charges. I did some wounds in the units of horror in his backline, but he charged, and then he declared a charge with Cloed Fiends into the Furies, and also his Bloodthirster ignore my bait and go straight for the horrors. I was hoping he would try to take the easy charge into the Furies and waste his turn even 1 more. But he ignores it and makes the right call and charges into the horrors, and he makes it. Oops. Yeah. And it seems like this is the last picture, because at this point we were halfway through round 5 and we had about 15 minutes left to play, and we both really wanted to finish the game. So in the end, basically I will tell you what happens. I don't take any more pictures because I was in a rush to finish the game. So essentially what happens, his demon engine charges into my chariots and kill them both. And then he finished this unit of horrors on the picture with his bloodthirster, but he really can't get anywhere else with it because this, I believe, is his last turn. And then I charge his unit of horrors with my crushers, and I overrun into his deployment zone. Not the unit on the picture, but the other one. I charged it earlier, which had Herald in them, and I charged them with my mountain sirens. He had like 2 guys left, and then I charged them with my crushers and overrun into his deployment zone. I probably would have gotten there anyway by normal movement, but this was just a better move overall. First I charged his unit of Furies, which he placed in front of my courtesan, so I could not help out my my herald. That's what it was. But instead I charged them and then overrun into the horrors, and then again overrun into his deployment zone. Yeah. And last turn he moved his demon engine on top of my hill to try and pick off my last unit, my last remaining mounted siren in the unit, which I hide behind the hill. And then in my last turn I declared a charge on the demon engine with my courtesan. I needed 11 on the dice, and then I rolled 11, so I got in and killed it. Yeah, he was quite a lot up on victory points. So he had like no, not quite a lot. He was a little bit up on victory points. So he won by 11-9 on victory points, but I had gotten my crushers and my slaughterers into his deployment zone. But he only had his slaughterer in my deployment zone. So I win the secondary objective and I win by 12-8. The other results was our Ogre Khan player played against Beast Herds. He lost his game 20-0. This was where you can see that our players was quite inaccurate with some of their pairings, because he had put a 2, which means he thinks this matchup is very good for him. So it was a little bit strange to see him lose 20 to the Beasts, but then again, he has not played in any major tournaments or like of the scale of Hereford or ETC. So this is probably, I believe, his first time doing a pairing like this with predictions. So yeah, but it's okay because Kiri or Charles, our captain, take 20 against the Empire of Sonnenstall. And then we have also our Beast Herds player take 13 victory over Archeron or Patrick with the Warriors of the Dark Gods. And then Stefan, our Dwarven Hold player, he lose 6-14 against Gutling with the Vermin Swarm, and I win 12-8. So overall we win 51-49. So I just edged it in our favor because I was the last one to finish as well. So yeah, I was happy with the result, but not completely happy with my play, because I believe if I move the chariots in a better position, which he cannot then do anything or anything decent with his demonic engine, then I basically still get the points for the demonic engine, and also I saved my points from the chariots, which is like 700 or so points, so then I would at least have gotten like a 14-6 or maybe even a 15, because then my thinking is that then he would have gotten like 700 points less, like 270 plus 540, so 810 points less. That would have left him at 1650. Just let me check real fast on the calculator. So 2160 minus 24, so 1650, which would have been a difference of 510 points, and the jump from, so it would have been 12-8 to me on victory points instead, assuming that of course he didn't take anything more than what he already did. And then 510, so it would have been 12-8 to me, and then 15-5 on the secondary objective. So it was a little bit unfortunate that I didn't get the 15-point win, which I should have, or maybe not should have gotten, but I was hoping to get. Yeah, so that is pretty much the sum up of the round. We won the first round by a very small margin, so we was happy to get off to a good start, but we also was a little bit worried that both our dwarf player and our ogre Khan player misjudged their pairings quite a bit. The dwarven hold player, I remember him saying that he wanted to play the Vermin Swarm and that he felt confident going into this matchup, and that he would hopefully get a decent sized win. So, and then he lost 6-14, so it was not ideal. But then again, you live and you learn, I guess. And yeah, we won, so was happy with the overall result. And then the next round, we played a local team from the city that hosted the tournament, so it was also a nice game. Yeah, and the guy I played, Sebastian, was also a very friendly, really cozy guy to play against, and I enjoyed my game against him. Also a good sportsman, and I think we had a good understanding of, so there was no like unclear play or any problems regarding this, so I really enjoyed my game, and I hopefully I can play him again sometime. I will definitely go back to Germany for tournaments. I will go back to Hereford for sure. I don't think this team made it to Hereford, so maybe I will have to go to another tournament in Germany at some point, but maybe we will see. So that was the last picture, and then we close the recording. So yeah, thank you.